Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, what you know about benchmark? They're speaking the facts that you wanna hear. That rapper jersey, the vision is clear. Diamonds glisten like a chandelier. You know what I'm here for, like Marshawn Lynch. At clutch time, we do not flinch. Real brothers, we do not switch. Hit home runs with the right pitch. Who run the city? What to do when they hating on you? I feel like Kobe 2010. Taking an L, all I need is a win. Business is business, you know how they go. They clearing the seats, now it's time to grow. Tune in now, gotta be in the know. Showtime, bitch, my about to blow. You know.
By any
Yeah,
chance?
yeah.
Yeah.
Denzel was 1 year behind me. Denzel was he was 2011.
Yeah. That's tough. I see. I had a feeling you played with Denzel. I had to cross over. So I was a couple years behind you, a couple years younger.
Okay.
Sure.
Did you play? Did you play any sports?
Basketball, but not
Okay.
not football. Nah. My mom and dad
Who
was
was who was the coach? Who was the head coach at Columbia when you played?
Coach Hill was the coach when I first came there, and then it all
Oh,
changed. Eddie Turner came in after my freshman year. Coach Hill was the coach though.
so you played under Coach Hill. Got it. Because Coach Hill was the coach all before me, and then my 4 years there too.
Mm-hmm. I came in for tryouts freshman year, and he was there. He was coaching.
Got it.
Hey, Greg, before we start, just let you know, he's just rocking the hat just because he's not a Mets fan.
It's just the fitted of the week. That's all it is.
Hey man, it's a good fit. The shoes should be the fitted every week. Every week should be a Mets hat, a Mets fitted week.
He's a Mets fan. Yep.
I am a Mets fan. Yeah, man. It was a curse until now.
Man, I should have threw on the Yankee fitted today.
That's hilarious, bro.
Oh man. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Bitch Mob Podcast. Another installment. We got a special guest today, but before I even get into that, thank you to all of our listeners, our viewers, our subscribers, everybody that votes on the polls, all of that. We would not be at this point if it was not for y'all. But to introduce our guest today, we have Claude Thomas here with us today. Football player, teacher, coach, pastor, and now the most important thing that's been added, a father. So I want to start there, getting into it. Congratulations on being a father. How has fatherhood been?
Thank you, bro. Well, appreciate y'all having me. This is my first time being on the podcast. So when you asked me, I was like, yeah, sure. Didn't know what to expect, but now I'm always down to talk about life and sports. But yeah, man, appreciate the congrats. Isaiah was born on December 10th, and there's just no way to describe it. Like I think the closest thing that I could get is like when you hold your child, you finally understand the love of whether it was your father or a father figure. Like you understand how they loved you so much. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you were a kid and like your parents tell you all the time, or your, uncles or whoever, like, they loved you so much, but you knew they loved you, but you never really understood it. But when it's your own kid and like you made this and you're holding your own creation, you're like, yo, I get it now. Like I understand like what that unconditional love is. You know what I'm saying? So right now, not getting a lot of sleep, that comes with the territory. But it's all worth it though, to know that you have a healthy baby and he's growing and everything. It makes it all worth it. So it's amazing, man. I'm loving fatherhood.
Yo, that's what's up. I got some time before I get there, but that's super that's super dope. And Isaiah came in December in 2020, which was a crazy year. We're now in 2021. Going into 2021, what's one thing that you could say like you learned or that you brought into 2021 from that long year of 2020?
Probably something that I haven't mastered yet, but I think the thing that I'm working on the most this year is priorities. And what I'm realizing is that already we're only a month into 2021. I think the thing that I'm realizing now is that what got me by, what made me successful in 2020 are not going to be the same things that made me successful in 2021. And specifically, like when it comes to having a baby, like, so just to keep it a stack, like before we had Isaiah, I would, work as long as I wanted to. If I, got off at 5, I feel like going to the gym. I feel like stopping by the mall. Like it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like you just got a whole bunch of time. And when he was born, I was kind of still in that same flow, and like it doesn't work. Like it doesn't work with wifey. It doesn't work with the family. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what I'm learning is that you have to prioritize for the next phase of life that you're in. You can't take whatever got you here. I wish I could say that I'm doing that perfectly, but I'm not, because that's, the only way that I'm able to do everything that I want to do is by getting up early, and that's not something that I get excited about. So I'm still learning it, but I think that's so far like the biggest lesson that I'm taking into 2021.
Hey, progression, not perfection. So
that's it.
You're trying on that regard. We're gonna get into your career and everything like that. You played football. We already talked about that. Mm-hmm. Won championship at VSU. Mm-hmm. What started your love for football? Where did that begin for you?
So actually, it was my love for basketball that got me to my love for football. So I love basketball. Like basketball, I would even say basketball still is my first love. I played it all through, elementary school, middle school, and freshman year I got cut. So that was kind of the time where it's like I could either try and be good at something that I might not be that good at, or I could kind of like, invest into something that I have natural gifts and abilities in. So it was almost like the failure of not making the team, which was actually a blessing, which was not making the team freshman year in basketball, to be like, you know what, I'm done with basketball. I'm going to put all of my, effort and energy into football. And then that was my freshman year of high school. And I think that's when I started taking it serious. Like I played Pop Warner and stuff like that. But once I realized that basketball wasn't going to be it, it was like, all right, I'm about to just put all my eggs in the football and see how far it could take me,
That's dope. I mean, I see here 6'4" cornerback, defensive. So were you playing back your whole life, or were you wide out first?
So I went to VSU. It's a black school. So they messed everything up. The website isn't accurate. So I'm actually 5'8". So I don't know who somebody was. Somebody was tripping in the athletic department that day. So hopefully that person still isn't working there.
It's crazy. I saw 6'4" defensive back, and I'm like, he should be in the league. Like there's a cornerback 2 spot that's open for the New York Giants that you could easily be playing at 6'4". I mean,
bro, people probably came to the game. It's like a 6'4" corner, like, and then they saw me run on the field. They was like, yo, we just wasted our time.
You're a slot corner. You're a slot corner at 5'8".
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's dope, though.
Did you always play? Did you always play that position, or was it different positions growing up?
Yeah, so I think in high school I played receiver. So that was my spot. Like I knew that was where I ended up like starting and playing. So once I made the team, I think like in high school as a corner or something like that, just a good athlete, but my skills weren't honed, if that makes sense. It's just raw talent, and Coach Bowen actually was, everyone has that coach who kind of takes them under their wing and like they see something in you. Coach Bowen was my coach sophomore year when I got to like JV varsity, and he saw something in me at receiver. They moved me to receiver my sophomore year, and the rest was history. So that's when it's kind of like this theme of like, okay, finding out what I'm actually naturally gifted at, and then once you find out what that is, then give everything you got to that, and then I ended up playing receiver in college too. So it was pretty much corner then receiver. Then I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at receiver. Then I kept that all the way through.
With playing receiver now, like I know wide receiver and defensive back, footwork is key, like running routes. How did you perfect your footwork and running routes? Like what did your workouts look like for you? For some of the younger listeners that we have that want to work on their footwork? What were some of the workouts that you did?
Yeah, so I think, well, first of all, like the thing that separates a receiver or a DB from those who play and those who don't play is going to be your footwork, like you said. If you're a receiver and you can't get open, you're not going to play because the quarterback can't get you the ball, and that's not going to be good for the offense. The same thing with defensive back. If you can't cover anybody, if you can't beat a receiver in and out of his breaks, then you ain't going to play either, you know what I'm saying? So it was everything from the ladder drill to cone drills to running routes. I would probably say like cone drills and just flat out running routes, like learn how to run routes. If you're a young receiver out there and you have aspirations to get better and aspirations to play, find somebody who could throw you the ball. It don't got to be anybody with a good arm. Honestly, you don't even need the ball to start out with, but practice running an out route, practice running a slant route, practice your 3-step, practice your 5-step, like practice all of that, because when you get in the game, it doesn't matter if you're fast, it doesn't matter if you have good hands. If you can't get open, there's nothing that separates you from the next receiver who's trying to play.
Well, it's funny you say that too. Were you a slot receiver first off?
I was slot in high school, and then I ended up playing outside once I got to college.
Wow. What was the biggest difference between playing slot and playing on the outside as a receiver?
I was too slow in college. I was too slow. Once you get to the college level, the speed of the game picks up because everybody was the best player on their team on both sides, offense and defense. So I wasn't quite quick enough, because when you play slot, if you look at like a Wes Welker or what's his name, Edelman, when you look at those guys, their first 2 steps off the line are what separates them from their defender. So I was quick, but I wasn't quick enough to where I could give them something real quick at the line and get open. So I had more of the slant routes from the outside, the hitches, the comebacks, where the quarterback had more time to give me the ball so I could get open.
What players did you look up to growing up, wide receiver wise, I guess, right? I mean,
yeah, Randy Moss, man. Randy Moss was my favorite player. I personally still think that he's the greatest receiver of all time. I know Jerry Rice has all the records, but the specimen, he was uncoverable. Like, you can't cover him. He was fast. He was tall. He had good hands. You know how it is. Like, everybody got mossed in high school. Everyone got mossed, in the playground and stuff like that. But that was probably like when I got to college, because Victor Cruz was like the giant star player when I was high school and college. So Victor Cruz is who I looked to once I got older.
I thought you were going to say Victor Cruz, because your years of playing football intertwined with his career, and he at that time, like, he had a 1,300-yard season with Eli, and he was going crazy. He was on a crazy trajectory to be like this incredible player pre-injury, right? And so I thought you might say that.
Yeah, Victor Cruz. I was in college 2011, my sophomore year, when the Giants won their second Super Bowl. And Victor Cruz played in that Super Bowl, so it was like everything. And that was right when I started playing in college too. So it was Victor Cruz, everything. I wanted to be just like him.
Speaking of college, right? Why did you choose VSU? Could it have been any other school? Jersey grown, Jersey bred, to go all the way down south to VSU, HBCU at that also. Mm-hmm. What was the thought process in your choosing that school?
Yeah, so number one, I wanted to get away from home, so it wasn't like a lot of magic that went into it. Second, my mom actually went to Virginia State, and my mom is from Virginia, so that's kind of where the connection comes from. I wanted to get away from home, and my mom was from Virginia State, so it was a pretty easy, like, okay, where can I go? Because I still tried to play it smart a little bit, like, where could I go and still have like the grandma to go to her house and wash my clothes and get some food and stuff like that. I wish I would have had the foresight to say, oh, this is a historically Black college coming out of high school. But for me, it wasn't that intentional. Once I got there, though, and now that I've graduated, I'm really glad that I went to HBCU. But I got to be honest, I can't say like, I chose it off jump. But once I got there and I like really, really understood what I was a part of, I'm glad that, VSU is where I ended up at.
Well, I mean, one question that jumped to mind right away is why were you glad you went to an HBCU, right? As someone who didn't go, like I mean myself.
Yeah, man. I think, it's this crazy feeling, and this is gonna sound funny, but it's the truth. Going to, and I'm not even lying, going to an HBCU feels like you're going to the family cookout. That's exactly how it feels. It's just that feeling of everybody is for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and specifically from professors and administration, like you don't have to question if this person wants me to win. Like, they want you to win, and a lot of it is because they understand the experiences and the backgrounds of a lot of the Black kids that were coming there, and the type of households and families that they were coming from. And then also, like, if I'm sitting in a history class at Virginia State, I can trust that this history professor is going to give me a full perspective of what U.S. history looks like. Not like, no shade to Columbia, but I learned in high school that the civil rights movement was just a thing that happened. Not necessarily a movement, and a movement that we're still actually fighting today. So I think that coming out of Virginia State, like, I think I understood why the world needs me, and why the world needs young Black people to embrace who they are. You know what I'm saying? I mean, y'all know this, like, you guys see the world that we live in, but, I think HBCUs just hold a special place in my heart because I think it gave me a greater appreciation for who I am as a Black man, but then also why it's so important that HBCUs survive. I know you guys are aware, but a lot of HBCUs, especially during the pandemic, like, went under and struggled financially, and clearly this world and our country needs a place for Black students to be safe in the education realm, so I'm glad that I went to a HBCU. Hopefully Isaiah will try to follow in my footsteps, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, it was a great experience. That was a long answer to your question, but it was an awesome experience.
No, it was a great answer. It was a great answer. It's illuminating for me because, I hear my friends talk about going to HBCUs and how special it is, right? And I never visited an HBCU when I went to college. Not because not because I thought less of them in any way, but because financially, it's just about what was financially feasible. I went to the area, right? I went to one in Patterson, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's how y'all know each other, Willie P. The Willie P connection.
Yeah, I mean, me and Tone met through basketball more so than anything else, right? That was before HB, and then I realized we went to the same school, and it was like, oh, all right, that's cool, that's dope. But it was more through basketball that we had met. But yeah, no, like, if you go to William Patterson, it's super diverse, but it's not the same. Not like what you're talking about. Like, obviously you're surrounded by your culture, and you're getting to learn from people who really care about what happens next. And you don't always get that sense of William Patterson. That much is true. And I love William Patterson. Right? I got a free master's degree, but still, like, it's not the same. So I definitely understand. I've always wanted that perspective. So I appreciate that answer for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Appreciate you asking.
Yo, shout out to HBCU. Shout out to people like Chris Paul who make sure that he puts HBCUs in the forefront. I wanted to go to HBCU, but it wasn't my decision because I visited Morgan State.
Okay.
I was sold. I wanted to go to Morgan State. Mama Burnett didn't want me to go that far. So, but I was sold.
Stay close.
I went to Morgan State on a visit, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. This is the place right here. But you still in your mama's house, so you gotta go with your mama said.
I get it. I understand, man.
Speaking of your son, so this is something that we always have discussions with football players in the future with everything that's going on with CTE, concussion protocol. How does that factor in with your son? Are you hesitant to let him play football? What's your thoughts on that? Because football is a sport that you love.
Yeah, and it's a tension, man, because me and Keisha talk about this. We don't talk about it a lot, but it is something that we talk about. I think I'm blessed to have made it through playing pretty much my whole life without having any serious injuries. But I also know that a lot of people aren't blessed in that way, you know. And when you talk about CTE, Antonio, you don't know until 50 years later, you know. So, you know, Lord willing, I won't have any serious injuries as a result of playing football. But now that I know, and I even thought about this because I had just finished the season, my senior year. I think concussion came out the next year. So all that research was kind of being made public, and CTE became like a big thing. I don't know if I would have even kept playing if I knew the consequences of CTE, you know. So when it comes to him, it's almost like I love football and I love the atmosphere. I love, you know, a lot of my closest friends, you know, are people I met through football. So I understand like the X factor that it brings to your life other than just playing. And y'all understand that because y'all met through playing basketball, you know. But it's almost for me like if I had to answer right now, I would probably say no. And I think the reason would be it's one thing if I didn't know and I played, you know what I'm saying? And I played and I made it through. But now that I know, I don't know if I could just put him out there on the field just knowing that like this is something that could potentially harm him 30, 40 years down the line, you know. If he makes a decision, I think like if he has a desire for it and he really, really wants to play, then I think it'd probably be, you know, a conversation at that point. But if he's like, hey, mom and dad, if you don't want me to play, which most kids probably won't do, but if y'all don't want me to play, then I won't play. I think that'll be it. I think I'll encourage him to definitely be in athletics in some way, whether it's basketball, baseball, you know, running track or something like that. But just knowing what we know now, I just don't know. You know, I don't know. It's scary, bro.
Yeah, it definitely is something serious to definitely consider. My parents didn't want me to play football this was before the concussions and everything came out, but just how violent of a sport it really is. Like, that's one of the most violent sports that we have, right? It's literally like gladiators, honestly. It's really like that.
It is, bro. And right around that same time is when the NFL had like this initiative to make sure that kids knew how to actually tackle the proper way, you know, because you had all these concussion injuries and neck injuries and stuff like that. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, why did my parents let me play this game? Like, why did they because you're right, bro. It's literally a contact collision sport. Like at all, you just bearing your body on the line, you know? But I'm in it, you know, looking back, because while I was in college, you couldn't pay me money to not play, you know? So if he has that type of love for the game, I understand, because I was the same way. And I'm pretty sure you guys are the same way with basketball. Like when you love something enough, you will do some crazy stuff, you know, just like when it comes to relationships as well. So we'll see, man. But if I had to choose for him right now, I'd probably say no.
Speaking of with college, what are some of your most fond memories playing at VSU?
Probably homecoming, man. Probably homecoming. Homecoming at an HBCU is just a different story. It's like it's about the game, but it's really not about the game. It's what happens before the game, at halftime, and then after the game. But I just think like, oh man, y'all bringing me back to all the good memories. But just running on the field and you see the stadium packed, homecoming, it's usually against a rival. So our homecoming, every year we play Bowie State. We play Bowie State every year for homecoming. And to me, it's the unity. You see everybody that went to Virginia State, they came back, they on the yard, they chilling, they at the football game. And it's like, it's that sense of, I didn't go to a normal school, you know, so I don't know what it's like between the dynamics and what events feel like and stuff like that. But homecoming always felt like love, because everybody was out there to do one thing, and that's to have fun. That's all it was, you know. So those homecoming games, and you know, my parents coming down for them, and you know, them making them special for the players and stuff like that. And then of course, like, you know, all the fun stuff that happens after, like the parties and the step show, and it's just homecoming week at a HBCU. There was no class. Like it was either your professor canceled class or you just didn't go to class. But there was no class homecoming week at a HBCU. It's almost like inauguration week. Like everything shuts down for homecoming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's definitely
for sure about homecoming, bro. Like from people that go to HBCUs, like it's one of their best memories of college. Like for real. Did you ever go down to one HBCU, Tone? Ever? Any?
I went to Morgan State HBCU weekend.
Jeez.
Ooh.
Bananas. Bananas, bro. I went one time for that, and I went during a basketball game. It was just different on that aspect. Now, I've been to a bunch of college games before that. The band and the cheerleaders, it was just completely different. Like, it was a full-blown, the Super Bowl halftime, that's what it was going on during the game. Like, the band, and, I'm an instrument type of guy. That's the type I love hearing the instrumentation and music.
Yeah,
I was sold. I'm like, yo, if I could get play in front of this 2-3 times a week.
Yo, that's another thing. Like when you're on the field and like the band is playing the latest Drake song, or the band is playing the latest, I don't know, whoever the hottest rapper, whatever the hottest song is, or the hottest songs of that season. Like the band is playing that, you know what I'm saying? And like in between timeouts, you have the band playing, you look in the stands and people dancing. It's like, it's a movie. Like it's no other way to, and it's normal though. It's normal. Like it's not like people are looking around like, oh, what's happening? Like, no, this is what happens literally every week at a HBCU football game, you know?
That is, I think too, the craziest thing about the culture on HBCUs is you don't get to see it. If you think about it, when you watch like the best college basketball teams play or best college football teams play, you don't see HBCU culture represented that often because those schools don't tend to attract the best players, right? Like, and it's because there's a foothold on that game, right? Is a foothold on like the top recruits and things of that nature. That's starting to change though, right? I don't know. I'm sure you've seen that. That's starting to change. So what I'm really excited about is that I definitely think that my outlook on where I would have gone to college would have been different if I'd gotten to see, them on TV, see these schools play on TV and them represented, right? And get to see Howard on TV and see their halftime shows and things like that, right? Instead, I got to grow up idolizing UNC and wanting to go there, right? You know what I mean? And I nothing against UNC, but like I really believe that I think more Black kids would want to go to HBCUs indefinitely if they'd gotten a chance to see it on mainstream media. And
bro.
Growing up, right?
Representation matters, man.
Yeah,
representation matters. I think kind of going back to what I said about just knowing that people care about you. Like I know that my coaches cared about us as men. Like they really wanted to see us succeed. I didn't go to a Duke or a UNC, but from what I know about college athletics and know that that's a Division I school and a powerhouse, let's keep it a stack, man. Maybe the head coach cares about you, but at the end of the day, you're there to make that school money. You know what I'm saying? Like if you, and this is, I don't know where I want to take the conversation, but this is you look at the Fab Five, like the reason why they had to leave is because the school was literally exploiting them, like the fact that they were making the school millions and millions of dollars and Chris Webber couldn't even eat dinner. Like that's ridiculous, So the fact that, college sports and definitely at the Division I level is a straight business, compared to I went, going to HBCU and my coach really wanted to see us win. You know what I'm saying? He knew that football wasn't going to last forever and that if we weren't going to be good men in life, then we weren't going to be successful. That's the part of it that kind of separates it. It's like, I'm going to be done playing football eventually, but Coach Scott, Coach Jones, like they actually care about me. You know what I'm saying? And to me, like you said, man, like if kids knew that that's what the experience was going to be like, I think a lot more of them would choose going to HBCU.
Oh, it's starting to change. It's all changing in front of us in real time. I think that's the coolest thing. Some of the best players in high school basketball are targeting the HBCUs. And I know that like one day my kid is going to see that on TV. They're going to see incredible play at a high level at HBCUs. And it's not going to be so much about the incredible play as much as it is going to be about like that platform that HBCUs get right?
Right.
Everyone gets to see the bands. Everyone gets to see, because I think First Take did a bunch of shows
Mm.
from HBCUs on HBCU week, and it was insane. Like I was like, yo, what is going on? Like I went to William Brown. What is this? Like this is insane. Like why was I was the wrong place. It looked incredible. Like there was so much going on, and it just looked like so much fun. So it's a regret of mine I have, right? So hearing you talk about your experience there is something it's illuminating for me. So like for sure, like and it's gonna change, and that's the cool part about it. It's all gonna change.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Transitioning real quick to you mentioning coaches actually caring about the kids, actually caring about them becoming men. You were a teacher, and I know you cared a lot about the kids and their future and teaching them. So talk to us about teaching and how you got into being a teacher.
Yeah, I forgot, man. You came to a career day. I forgot you came to a career day that we had. Tonio had showed them all the moves and told them their story. So I'm gonna start there, then I'll go back to how I got into teaching. But I really wanted to I brought you in as a professional basketball player, and I brought Leon in, who's a firefighter. And I wanted to see kids that look like us, see adults and men who were productive members in society that weren't necessarily just rappers or, entertainers, you know what I'm saying? So I thought it was real cool that, you could see these things on TV, but if you don't see those things up close, then it's hard to think that that's what you can do, So that's why I thought it was really cool that day that you were able to come and Leon was able to come, because it's like, no, look, it's not just on TV. Like he's sitting right in front of you. Like it's possible if you put in the work, and But I got into teaching. I wouldn't even say like it was a passion of mine. Like honestly, it turned into one for sure, but it definitely didn't start out that way. But I got into teaching because my degree is in social work. So coming out of school, I did like some group counseling, and I did like some after school programs with kids that were more therapeutic. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed helping kids. But I knew, and I still even believe this today, like I think the greatest opportunity that kids have for a bright future is through education, and specifically through their educators. And I think we could probably all on this call name our favorite teacher from high school or elementary school. And it's because those teachers made an impact on you, and I always wanted to be in a place where I can make the greatest impact. So I got into teaching like that. I'm like, if I can just get in the classroom, I worked at Spark Academy, which is downtown Newark, which was 99% Black, and the 0.1% was Hispanic. So I don't think we had anything else in that school. But just the presence of having a Black male in the classroom totally shifts the dynamic. There's a lot of kids in that class who didn't have a father or didn't have a present father. And not that I went in to try to be their dad, but I went in to say, hey, here's a Black man who cares about me and is trying to get me to value education. So I loved every second of it. Tone seen me, and he's been around my class and my students and everything like that. But I would say it's probably one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done. I only taught for 2 years, but to know every single day that you made an impact on those kids, like every day, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if it was a rough day, you know how kids are, like they'll give you a run for your money, and sometimes lessons don't go the way they are. And, sometimes, teachers have rough days. That's part of the plan, the deal, but to know that even if my lesson didn't go the way I wanted it to, if I hugged a kid that day, or if I smiled at a kid that day, or if I told them I loved them, or if I asked them how their family's doing or what they did over the weekend, like that's the real mark of a teacher. Because I guarantee you right now, there's not one kid that I had who remembers anything I taught them as far as like education. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't remember multiplication. They don't remember, like Mr. Thomas told me how to divide. Like they don't remember any of that stuff. They remember on the playground when Mr. Thomas listened to him talk about, what's happening at home. Or I thought it was real cool. Like a couple of times I got invited to birthday parties, and that's when it's real. Like, yo, you invited your teacher? Like I thought that was mad corny. Like why would you want your teacher to be at your birthday party? You know what I'm saying? But it's because they were so proud, like they want their family to meet their teacher. That's how I knew I was making a difference. So like, yes, what they learn obviously is very important, but more than that, I think what they see and what's modeled for them is more important than that.
That's a big point too. And I know that they always say you don't remember what people necessarily say or do, but you remember the way they make you feel, right? So like,
yeah.
I think that all goes back to that. Like, my favorite teachers, I can remember just the way I felt when I interacted with them, as opposed to what I learned from them. That's the lasting mark. And also, you definitely take for granted, going to public school your whole life, the influence of having a Black teacher. Because the first time I had a Black teacher, it was instant. I knew right then and there the difference. So like, I know exactly what you're saying there. I mean, it sounds like you taught kids that are younger, right?
Yeah. 4th grade.
Okay. So like, did you ever have any aspirations of teaching kids that were older, like high school and getting to that?
Yeah. And like, I always thought that if my plan, if teaching was going to be like the thing that I made a career out of, like a long-term thing, I think eventually I wanted to move up to like the high school area and coach football at the same time. Elementary school is definitely pivotal, but high school is really pivotal because that's when kids are really starting to understand who they are. They're starting to make decisions that will affect them for the rest of their life. You know what I'm saying? Peer pressure is extremely real. Kids have a lot more freedom and a lot more access to the things that could either be productive or destructive in their lives. You know what I'm saying? So I think that high school would probably been what I would have loved to get into. Just to know that, these kids have 4 years, and what they do now is kind of going to inform what they do in some cases for the rest of their life. So if I had a chance to move up a little bit, I probably would have moved to the high school range.
Shout out to Mr. Higgins, Mr. Take. Shout out to that, I can't remember her name, but it's a couple teachers that definitely, like, I go back to West Orange High School and I go back to William Patterson. There's some teachers that definitely still have an impact. Still, I remember, like, and it's something I always admired too of you being a teacher. I didn't get my first Black male teacher till college at William Patterson. My senior year, I got 2 Black teachers in one semester. That was the first time I had a Black male teacher for a hip hop class and a marketing class, something like that. But one of them was for a hip hop class, like the study of the history of hip hop.
Yeah.
Senior year. So I definitely agree. That's a major key important that we need to see more representation of Black male teachers, Black teachers in general, in the school systems, even from elementary all the way higher, especially at the higher level. Like you said, that's part of one of the perks of going to the HBCU. Coming closer to the end, before we transition, we got one segment we call With the Quickness segment. We actually like some rapid fire questions, whatever comes off in your head. But we got a couple more before we get there. Now, currently, you're a pastor. How did that come about? How did you transition to that? How was that for you? Because you ended up having to move to North Carolina, right?
Yeah. Whew, crazy story, bro. Crazy story. So I'm teaching at Spark. I'm in Jersey. Me and Tony are the same church. Like, I'm where I grew up. So I went to college at Virginia State, and I came back home to teach, and my family was up here. So I basically came back home after I graduated. And like, kind of like I said, like, I knew that, like, I was called to help people, but I couldn't quite find that lane. Like, when you feel like you're getting closer and closer. So when I graduated, I had a degree in social work. And what's funny, so this is kind of like a longer line, but I changed my major my sophomore year. And I know that's like not good in college, you know what I'm saying? Because you had 2 full years of one major. And I mean, I changed it second semester of sophomore year. So I had 2 full years under my belt. But I was a communications major because I wanted to do sports reporting when I graduated from school. But I just knew it wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? Like, how when you just know that it's just not right, even though, like, it may be more convenient. So the end of my sophomore year, I changed to social work because that was like the closest thing that I could find. Like, I just want to help people. I don't know what it looks like, but that actually added 1 more year onto my college, me being in college. So I did 5 years at Virginia State instead of 4 as a super senior. But then I got into counseling and I was great and I did it for a year, but I was like, this quite isn't it. I was like, maybe it's teaching because I could be in the classroom. And then what I realized when I was teaching, I was also the youth pastor at the church that Antonio and I were at. I realized that I had a passion for just people in general, not necessarily kids. I thought it was always kids. Um, and I knew that I always said to myself, like, if I could be in full-time ministry at a church that I loved, at a church that my family could be a part of, like a church where I could one day raise my son, I want to give my life to that. You know what I'm saying? And I could get paid for it. Because the church that I was at, Antonio knows, like, couldn't afford to pay me. So it was like, it just wasn't, no shade, but it just wasn't where I was going to be as far as having a family. So ended up, my brother actually sent me a sermon from Elevation and Pastor Stephen. And I was like, yo, what is this? Like, this looks crazy. So I ended up applying, and I got down there and Keisha went with me, and it was almost confirmation, like, hey, everything that you've been trying to figure out on how you can, like, live in your purpose, like, this is it right here. What's interesting about that story is, and I don't even think I told Antonio or like the rest of the team when I left, I didn't have a guaranteed job when I moved down there. So basically what I got accepted to was an apprenticeship, was like a paid internship, basically, to where you would do 6 months there of training and you may or may not be offered a job. So I even left teaching, and I left what I was doing with the church up here just for the chance of getting hired there. But it's almost like, having faith in yourself that, hey, if this is something I believe in, then I'm gonna push all my chips to the middle. Or like, at the same time, like, hey, I have enough faith in God that if I step out in faith, He'll sustain me, He'll keep me, So that's how I got into it. But I didn't become a pastor until actually this past year. So I got ordained officially as a pastor in June of 2020, in the midst of the craziest year ever, in the pandemic. But then also, I call it the civil rights movement because I think that's what it was in 2020. But in the middle of that also. And that kind of confirmed to me, like, God kind of saying, hey, I've always had this plan for you. And even though you thought that you were kind of like getting off the path or getting off of what you were supposed to be doing, like, this is it, and to be able to be ordained as a pastor here in the middle of like one of the worst years in human history, honestly, let me know that, like, that's why I'm here. Like, this is a broken world that we live in. It's a hurting world that we live in. And out of all years, right, God can do whatever He wants. So He could have made me a pastor last year or a pastor this year, but He chose to I guess you would, I don't like saying this, but I guess you would say elevate in a time where there was a lot of like despair and destruction. So yeah, that's how I got into it. So I can't say that I thought I would always be a pastor. It's almost like me kind of orchestrating my own path, and then God getting me to a point where it's like, this is what I have for you the whole time,
How was it, again, during that time of 2020, you get ordained and we have everything that's going on with civil rights and the killing of Black people, unfortunately, continuing. And I know I saw through Instagram, you were at a couple of events, you spoke up on it. What was that like for you in balancing out and speaking up on it? Like, was it an easy decision to speak out on it? Like, how did that go about for you, that process?
Yeah, man. So just to give some context, I'm a pastor at Elevation Church. In Elevation, I would say it's a diverse church, but I'm gonna be honest and say that it's probably a greater percentage of white people that go to our church. So when you take into account what the Black Lives Matter movement is and stands for, it was interesting, man. And I'll be honest, I think I was faced with, do I say something and offend somebody, or maybe even offend the majority of people who go to our church? Or do I just, if I don't say anything, it'll kind of just blow over, you know what I'm saying? And I just made a decision, like, I'm gonna be true. And if it ends up getting me to a spot where I'm not liked or I'm not accepted, it is what it is. you know? So I ended up speaking up, and I essentially, over a course of a lot of conversations and a lot of different, like, different things, but I ended up saying at the time, and I'll give you guys even more context so you kind of understand where I was at. At the time, I was the only Black person on my staff here. So there was 8 of us on staff, and I was the only Black person. So you can imagine, like, while all this is happening, everybody's looking at me. They're like, you know what I'm saying? They might not be saying anything, but they want to see how you're moving in a time like this, And I did my best to not hold back and speak up. And I think the overall sentiment that I had during last year was, this isn't new for Black people. Like, this may be new to the rest of the world, and the killing of unarmed Black men or Black people in general may be new to you, but it's not new to me. And this is my experience. And I talked a lot about growing up and driving while Black. I'm sure both of you guys are familiar with that. And, everything that comes with being a Black man in America, that was all news to them. And I think a light bulb moment for them was, man, how did I live in the same America that you're living in, but I didn't know anything about this? And I think that's where a lot of the problems come in. It's like, hey, we're both living in the same country, but my experience is different than yours. How come we never talk about this? So we said a lot about that. And then also from, like, it's that tension of being a Black man and being a pastor, like, I can't separate the two. So there was moments of tension for me, like, cause I'm gonna be honest with y'all, this is the podcast. I'm gonna keep it a stack. There was moments when I was like, yo, I don't want to be a pastor right now. I need to tell y'all about yourself right now, but I also believe that God put me in that position to help pastor them and help to see injustice and racism for what it really is. So for me, it was a lot of praying before I said things and hope I said it right. But ultimately, I tried. I didn't get it perfect every time. There were probably times when I posted something that was probably a little bit too abrasive, or probably a conversation that was probably not as warm. But I tried to filter all through the lens of, at the end of the day, like, we're all created by God. Like, we're all made at the hands and the image of God, right? So if we are, then that means that you need to see me as a child of God, but I also need to see you as a child of God as well, so it has to work both ways. So 2020 was a year full of conversations and perspective and, really just taking the mask off. Cause I think until it affects you, then you don't really care about it, or until it affects somebody close to you, you don't really care about it. So it was an interesting year, man. It was an interesting year. And I think for me personally, I didn't enjoy the circumstances in which this movement started, but I did enjoy kind of the fruit that came from it in all the conversations and even change that we saw.
Well, that's incredible, first of all, and congratulations on recently becoming a pastor. That's amazing.
Thank you, man.
One thing I want to ask you too is, you're in North Carolina. It's no secret about the leanings of North Carolina. All right, we don't have to dance from that. Like you said, we're on the podcast. We're gonna keep it stacked. So I'm really interested to know how they received it. Because first of all, props to you, man. Because I in real life, that's something everybody deal with. I had to deal with that at work. It was the same thing. Like, am I gonna not say anything in the fear that I might lose my job? My boss is white. All my bosses are white. Like, right? Like, if I say anything remotely or abrasive, or just say how I really feel in the moment, and you're not happy, so you're like, I'm not gonna lose my job. It's the same thing you're going through, but I'd say on a larger scale for you. You're supposed to be a beacon of hope in your community, right? So how did white people take what you're saying? How did you get received?
So I think there's two sides. I say the overall majority was very, like, empathetic. And I'll say empathetic, like, yo, I have no idea life like that. That's your reality. And I think most people that I talked to was like, man, I didn't know, and I'm sorry, and what can I do to help reverse this sickness? I think that was, like, the majority. I also experienced the small percentage of, I had a police officer, I'm just keeping it a stack, a white police officer who goes to our church. And I think maybe 2 days or a day after George Floyd was killed, I did a Facebook Live. And I just went live sharing my experiences as a Black man and as a Christian, and what I believe that the next step was for the church. And there was a police officer who called me the next day and said, "I think you got it wrong." And he wanted to sit down and have breakfast and talk about it. And without sharing too much, I think you can probably infer a lot of the feelings that he had as a police officer. So I will say that the majority of the conversations that I had were very positive. I think did some good, but I also had some conversations where and it's okay to get to this spot where it was like, hey, we're just not going to see eye to eye on this, and we don't have to agree. But I think for a lot of people, it was like a line in the sand. You know what I'm saying? Like, now that this is all out and you've kind of shown me who you are, I don't think we're meant to be in each other's lives right now. You know what I'm saying? And that was another part of it. It's like 2020 helped us see people for who they really are. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the people that we went to high school with and we thought we were cool, they're the same ones posting some crazy stuff on Facebook or Instagram. For me, it was eye-opening, you know? So, and I'm sure you guys have experienced that, but for the majority, it was pretty much well received. But you have that small percentage of, yo, you didn't just start thinking like this. This is who you were the whole time, you know? So, which is a sad part, but I'm also glad because now we know everybody stands, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a blessing this past year, was you're able to see things for what it really was. Like, one of my mentors always told me, he said, Tone, it's a real blessing that you can see it for what it is. And I'm like, my mind, I'm like, yo, he just talking some nonsense, trying to sound deep. And then I thought about it, like, yo, a lot of people really don't see things and see life for what it is. They might try to make it look better than what it is. They might try to ignore it. But to be able to see things for what it really is and see people for what they really are, and then be able to maneuver correctly how God sees fit for your life is a huge blessing, because there's times where people have relationships and unions that's really not meant to be, friendships, marriages, whatever the case may be. So
yeah,
2020 was a blessing despite everything that happened.
You're right. Yeah, man.
Transitioning to our last segment before we get you out of here with the quickness segment, we're going to start off with this one. What's your go-to meal?
Oh, go-to meal, pizza.
Pizza, okay. Greg, do the honors. You already know the vibes. I know what's coming next.
Before I do the honors, what's the topping on your pizza? What are you going with?
Sausage all day. Give me that Italian sausage.
I can't argue that. So the next thing, man, have you had the Popeyes chicken sandwich?
No, man, I haven't had it. There's a lot of Chick-fil-A's down here in North Carolina, so Chick-fil-A is easy to come by, but my wife actually tried to get it and the line was wrapped around the corner, so I couldn't get
it. So, all right, so we're going to have to say this question for another time, because I am a chicken sandwich connoisseur. Okay. I have tried the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I have tried the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, obviously. I have ones that I like more than the other. I don't want to sway your opinion, although if you listen to the show, which one I like more. But, but no, man, like when you get a chance to try both, you let me know, because I don't want to give you my opinion and mess it up for you. I want you to, because Chick-fil-A is like religion down there. They have them everywhere.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah, bro. Chick-fil-A is like the standard, bro. When you go to Chick-fil-A, they don't miss. If they Steph Curry, they don't miss. Like, you never have a bad experience with Chick-fil-A. But I do want to try I want to compare them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna have to try it, and then I'm gonna have to come back on the show so we can talk about it.
Yes, sir. You and your wife had go get one each, and y'all just exchange, but y'all have the bites, and y'all talk.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Like, and you got the whole sandwich to kind of just figure it out. let God do his work in there.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
All right, so since it wasn't Chick-fil-A or Popeyes, right? So then tell me, what's your top pizza spot?
Ooh, top pizza spot. So I'm gonna go whatever like the local spot is. I'm not a big fan of like the Papa John's, Domino's pizza. I'll eat it, but like y'all, I'm from Jersey. I'm from where y'all at. So I need the good. I need the greasy. I need the. You gotta put it in the brown bag pizza. Like I need that. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want no perfect cut pizza. So whatever like the local spot is, that's in Chapel Hill where UNC has this like world famous pizza spot. So that's probably the best one in this area where I'm at down here.
Got it. All right. So if you had to choose corner stores in the South or corner stores up in Jersey?
Up north for sure. But first of all, it's really no corner stores down here. And the corner stores up north, you walk in there, you might get a bag of chips, but you might get a bacon, egg, and cheese. You know what I'm saying? Salt, pepper, ketchup. Like I haven't had a real bacon, egg, and cheese since I've been in Jersey. Like they just don't. It's just not it down here. Now you can get some barbecue. Like everyone serves some good barbecue down here. But if I want the good, wrap it up in the foil, brown bag, get the Arizona iced tea, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not the vibes down here. I got to come back up north to do that.
Hey, we might have to try to go open up a bacon, egg, and cheese spot down there. Make
Bro,
some
that
money.
might be it.
They ain't got no spots like that down there. That's crazy. So, football head,
man.
Who's winning the Super Bowl this year?
Who I want to win? I want the Chiefs to win. Who I think is gonna win is the Bucks. I've learned to stop rooting against Tom Brady. He just wins too much. Every time I root against him, he ends up winning. So this is gonna be the one year that I'm actually root for Tom Brady.
Because root for Tom Brady, he'll lose. That's what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen.
So we was having a debate with the podcast last week since you brought up Tom Brady. Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers? You got to start a team right now. Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers?
I'm going Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers may not be a popular belief, but Aaron Rodgers is the more skilled quarterback. I think Tom Brady has it up here. Like he probably is the better mental player. But when I'm down 7 and I need a touchdown, I'm giving the ball to Aaron Rodgers. Like he can extend the play, he can move, he makes everyone around him better. I wonder what Aaron Rodgers' career would have been if he was on like more complete teams like Tom Brady was on. So
okay, hold on. We're gonna have to stop here for a second. So Miles is a co-host on this show. Miles made the argument that I was making excuses for Aaron Rodgers when I said that he didn't get to play with nearly as much of a great situation, right? Or in as many great situations as Tom got to play in. He was saying I was making excuses for Aaron Rodgers. Bro, he tried to compare the receiving cores that Aaron had to Tom. It's not even close.
It's not even close, bro.
17 touchdowns, bro.
Bro, Tom Brady played with arguably the best tight end to ever play. And you played with Randy Moss at the same time and Wes Welker, and you had all of these. The year that they lost to the Giants the second time, they were 19-0. What was it? You know what I'm saying? Like they had a super team. Yeah. Tom Brady, he always played on the good team. Like Aaron Rodgers has never played with a number one, like a first round draft pick at receiver ever in his career. Ever. You know what I'm saying? Like even right now, Devontae Adams, he turned into the great player that he's in, but he wasn't drafted in the first round. So you put Aaron Rodgers.
Everything I said last week. It's like he listened to the show.
Yeah, I was about to say you really speaking to the choir. Greg was saying all of that verbatim. So
no different. Hey, Claude, come back anytime, bro. Open invitation. What the heck?
It's kind of like what James Harden was doing. You know what I'm saying? Like you play forever on this team and you're the best player. Clearly, they didn't surround him with, some people, he got Westbrook. He wanted Westbrook. He got Chris Paul. But at the end of the day, like, there's only so much you can do with the talent you have before you got to make a change. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna make a bold prediction. I'm gonna say that if they don't surround him with better players this year, I think Rodgers is gonna force a trade, or he's gonna try to get out of Green Bay.
Oh, for sure. That's what I thought too. I thought it was gonna happen this summer, but he's being nice. So
yeah,
lucky for Green Bay fans, they get one more year of Aaron Rodgers. And if they mess it up, which they probably will, because that coach is an idiot, then we're gonna be looking at Aaron Rodgers play somewhere else, probably 49ers.
And they draft a quarterback with their first pick in the first round.
Disrespectful.
Exactly.
Man, I knew I like Claude, man.
Paul is also a Giants fan, so I'm gonna ask you: do you believe in Daniel Jones as your future quarterback, at least for now?
No.
What don't you like about Daniel Jones? I want to hear what you don't like about Daniel Jones.
All right, so this will be going into his third year. Like, we've seen enough football. We've seen you play enough football. Like, you like coaches used to say, I know what you can do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you show me all that you can do. At your very best, you can move in the pocket. You're a running threat. Like, you have the wheels. He has wheels. You know what I'm saying? But you can't carry a team. And the Giants were one game away from making the playoffs this year. Like, all they had to do was win that last game. And he even showed, like, with a good defense, that he can't get it done. What I think personally Daniel Jones is going to be, I think he's going to make a career out of being a number 2 quarterback, like solid backup. He's going to, what you're getting with him. The Giants need to get in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes and trade the farm to get Deshaun Watson, get him with Saquon, bring Giants football back.
I'm not against the idea of trading for Deshaun Watson. I think it's smart. I think any team should do it. Okay, so I'm there with you on that. But Daniel Jones, I have been a avid Daniel Jones supporter, and the biggest reason why for me is because I've seen what he can do when the situation is far from perfect offensively. They don't have a number 1 wide receiver. They don't, right? Like, Slayton's not number 1. We can agree on that, right? Slayton's not, and Shep is. I love Shep. He's a slot guy, right? Like, but you need to get him. You need to get him weapons. You need to see what he is when he has weapons. I think he throws a really nice ball. I do. Some of the decision making you see early with rookies, that's going to happen with all rookies across the league, unless your name's Patrick Mahomes. And guess what? If we don't talk about Patrick Mahomes, bro, he walked into a golden situation. Like Josh Allen, golden situation this year, and look what happened. It took off. Josh Allen couldn't throw a ball into the ocean the years before. And when he played against man defense last weekend, right? What happened? They tightened up those windows, and what was happening? He looked like Josh Allen. That's what happened. All right?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you right now, too. My thing against Josh Allen, for anybody who's listening right now, and I'll say this again for the regular podcast, is that Josh Allen, to me, is a perfect example of white privilege. He came into the NFL with all the weaknesses they say black quarterbacks have without even ever watching black quarterbacks play. And for some reason, because he could throw the ball a long way, everyone was convinced it was going to work out. But when, I don't know, we can name it, Dwayne Haskins comes to the league, right? Or just name other big time black quarterbacks, right? Even Deshaun Watson. Teams that passed him are going to try to trade for him now. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
It's Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson. And he won the national championship on one leg, right? You got to be twice as good to get half as much, right?
That's a fact, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't stand that. And so it's Josh. I know Josh Allen seems like a good guy, but he is an emblem for white privilege in the NFL, and that's my thing. So I know we got off course, but I like Daniel Jones. I think we have to give him a shot. Draft Jalen Waddle. Let's see what happens. Give him some weapons, and then we'll talk again.
Yo, the next time I got to come back on, but it's almost the same situation with Steve Nash and the Nets. Like, how do you get that job? Like, I understand if you've been a head coach before, you've been a coach at all. He's never coached before, never. You know what I'm saying? And you not only get a job when there's other black coaches who should have been considered, but you got the best job in the NBA. You got the job where Kevin Durant is healthy now. Kyrie is healthy, and James Harden's going to force his way to Brooklyn, and you get that job. You know what I'm saying? That's another conversation for another day. But it's
yeah, I mean, I've got my theories about it. I was thinking about it last night. Funny enough, too. It's quick enough where I could say it too. Like, I think that he got the job because first of all, he's friends with the general manager. So yes, there's that connection. It's nonsense there. It's not like he was the most deserving candidate. It wasn't. But also because he's a guy. Steve, I don't think anyone dislikes Steve Nash, and they want to bring in a guy that could be Kyrie, KD, and James Harden's friend and therapist as opposed to being a coach. And that's why we're here in a situation where these guys don't have defense is optional every night, and here we are. And so then they're trying to overcompensate. Lucky for the Nets, they don't have to be a great defensive team to win. They really don't. They have to be average. They're not even average. They're the worst defensive team I've ever seen. So that's the problem. But you know, and it doesn't make it any better, by the way. So there's that.
Who you got winning the NBA championship?
As a Nets fan, I gotta say the Nets. But I hate to go against the Nets, but I haven't seen enough from the Nets yet. If Philly looks really good right now, I think LA, the Lakers, and the Clippers are always going to be legit. But if the Nets can figure out, like you said, if the Nets can figure out how to play a little bit of defense, like I think they should have no problem getting to the finals.
Give me the songs that you listen to before your games. What got you hyped?
I think I still got a playlist. Definitely Drake Over. That was definitely up there. Of course, Dreams and Nightmares, Meek Mill. And then I'll go Jay-Z, What More Can I Say?
Oh yeah.
Those are probably top, definitely getting played before every game.
Oh yeah, definitely. What more can I say? That's one right there. Got two more before we get you out of here. In your opinion, who has the best footwork in the game right now? Give me your top three wide receivers with the best footwork.
I'm gonna go Tyreek Hill from the Chiefs. I'm gonna go Devontae Adams, the Packers. Another receiver. And I'm gonna probably go DeAndre Hopkins. No particular order, but those are three that come to mind.
Bet. Last one before we get you out of here. Again, this is Claude Thomas. We thank you for taking time out of your schedule to hop on with us. 5 people, dead or alive, that you're gonna have a meal with you.
5 people, dead or alive?
Yes, sir.
I think I probably want to have a meal with Jay-Z, and not just probably from the, like, how did you come from the ground up to be one of the best rappers ever, but then also a businessman that everyone wants to kind of follow. Jay-Z, I'd probably say 5. I don't know, 5. Jay-Z, LeBron. I would go probably like Martin Luther King Jr. probably, Michael Jackson, Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Hey,
and number five. And Victor Cruz.
I'll Victor Cruz.
That's not a bad table right there at all.
Nah.
It's not a bad table. But
hey, I appreciate y'all having me, man. Thanks for thinking about me. Thanks for having me on the show. Keep up the good work, fellas.
No doubt. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. For those that are watching, viewing this, make sure you subscribe below. Make sure you tag a friend, share it with somebody. There was a lot of gems in this one right here, a lot of stuff that you could take from it. Life, football, Christianity, it's a lot of things. Whichever way you want to look at it, you could take something from this, share it with even your baby mama, your uncle, whoever. If y'all not talking, I'm sure this episode can bring y'all together on some level. But y'all know the vibes. Bench Mob, if you stay ready, you do not have to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.
Peace.